my name is Lena. I'm the president-elect of EONS. We're here in Amsterdam for the ECCO 2017 conference, and on Friday we had our nursing day, which was a great success. We had all day issues about the workforce and nursing, and not specifically about different cancer sites, which is quite unusual, but after what I've heard from the audience, it was a great success. Very interesting sessions. We have published a paper on containing over 7,000 Swedish nurses, where we looked at their intention to leave, which is an early sign of retention, really. And we saw that 1/3 of all the nurses, both in general care and in cancer care, intended to leave within the next coming year, which is of course a great concern, because high nursing turnover is a global problem, and the cost for one bedside nurse is actually double. It costs more than 1 year's salary to turn over one nurse. So this is a great problem, and of course also affecting continuity to patients, and nursing shortages is the main reason on the most hospitals for closing beds, delaying treatments. So we have a real problem here. And what we did in our study was we looked at the connection between intention to leave and leadership. How did the nurses perceive leadership? And we saw that it was very strongly connected. Poor leadership is one of the main reasons for nurses leaving their workplaces. And that was both for quite new young nurses and also very experienced cancer nurses. So it's important not only when you're new on the job, it's important also later in the career. So really need to do something about nursing leadership. I think you need guidance. It's a very difficult job, and you need guidance. You need to have somebody speaking up for you higher up in hospitals, and it's hard work physically, but also mentally, of course. And if the nurses don't feel that their supervisors support them at work, it's very difficult for them to perform their job. So I think it's very difficult to be a nurse manager. I've been that myself in many years, and you get a lot of pressure from your organizations on finances, on other things, not so much on looking after the nurses or keeping the quality of care. So I think we need to focus more on the nurses, because if the nurses are happy, the patients are happy. It's the numbers, of course. When in times of finance cuts, they cut down on nurses. The heavy workload, long shifts. We have countries in Europe where the nurses on a regular basis work 24-hour shifts, which is, of course, you can imagine that you might intend to leave and want to have another job if that's the case. So I think it's workload, it's lack of support from healthcare organization, and also not being recognized. It's all about the doctors on most healthcare organizations. Nurses are working more quietly and don't get the recognition that they deserve. And this is sort of acknowledged by the WHO and the EU, that we need to recognize nursing more. But still, that doesn't really happen in many organizations. Due to old tradition, it's more focused on doctors. Look in the media on articles, we're talking about doctors all the time, and you very rarely see nurses. If you see nurses, it's in troubled situation. It's about shortages or stress or something. It's never sort of in a positive way, so we don't get much help there either. I think that if healthcare organization could sort of focus more on strengthening the nursing leaders, so they would strengthen their nurses, it would be better quality for the patient and less turnover, because there is also evidence for if you change the leadership to a better leadership, the nursing turnover goes down and the intention to leave goes down. So there is actually quite a lot you can do, but you need to focus on the leaders. Well, I think the new concept works really well. They have some interesting new parts to this conference. It's, for instance, the tumor boards with all professions involved have been very successful, and while the medics focus very much on the tumor, the other professions might focus more on the human being behind the tumor, so it's more interesting for the audience. So I think that's been a success. And also the critical review sessions is a new part. I think that's very interesting as well. And again, it's multi-professional, not just different disciplines, multi-professional, and I think that's really a way forward. And there's been a couple of really interesting sessions on primary care, the role that cancer care have in primary care, where you had patients, carers, district nurses, community nurses, doctors, and all kinds of other professions as well, seeing that you can actually change cancer care, and that primary care will have a more stronger part of cancer care in the future. So I think that's very interesting. The highlights was on different aspects on workforce issues, what nurses can do to speak up, to educate themselves. We had one session that I absolutely loved, and that was about the young cancer nurses, their view of their careers. And it's incredible to see these young nurses, and they were quite brave. They challenged us a lot. One of them started with a question, how many of you have not worked over 30 years in healthcare? And I think out of the 100 people in the room, I think there was 4 hands. So somebody also said, this is like Jurassic Park in here. We're all old and we need to sort of highlight the young nurses and let them shine. And that's what we're doing a lot in EONS. We try to promote the younger nurses and help them develop the practice as well. So, because all of us have been to so many conferences, but it's time for us to let the new ones come in as well. Important for the future. Well, we have some interesting plans. We have a meeting in Lisbon in a couple of weeks, but we also have a new concept when we go to Estonia. We go together with the Estonian nurses. They need a lot of help from us, so we educate them and visit hospitals there, and we try to promote cancer nursing, who is not recognized as a specialty in Estonia. So all of us are going there in May. And then we continue our work with the big project that we're doing, RECAN, recognizing cancer nursing in Europe. We finished phase 1 and we continue with phase 2, so we're going to go to 4 different countries and collect data on what's working and what's not working, what's the situation for the nurses. So that's what we're going to do for the next 12 months. And then after that, phase 3 in RECAN, which is using what we already learned in phase 1 and 2 and trying to impact EU and change the regulation for nursing and try to establish that cancer nursing should be a specialty in all countries in Europe, which it isn't now. So we're busy. We also want to focus on leadership, so we're planning some kind of event promoting leadership for our member national societies to help them develop in their countries. So that's the main areas we're working on.